Nintendo has had one hell of a year, especially when you compare it to last year. Obviously, the Switch is at the heart of Nintendo's success. But I want to take a look back at where the company stood before we got this thing in our hands, and how the general consensus around Nintendo changed throughout the year. Hey, have you heard of Amino? It's one of the best places you can go to connect with other like-minded fans who share your interests. There are communities for every interest you can imagine, like Nintendo Switch, Sonic, Mario, and even Zelda. This is a very active community. These are all the people that were online while I was recording this. There's always something to do and people to talk to. I'm noticing a lot of people helping each other with the new DLC. I'm there to, encourage the youth. It's got everything that you'd want out of a community-focused app, and the best part, they're giving away a Switch and two $50 eShop cards. If you want in on that, head over to the Zelda Amino and check out the Holidays in Hyrule challenge. Enter by posting your own piece of Zelda fan art, whether it be a collage, a short story. You're creative people, you can figure it out. Just make sure you use the right hashtag, Holidays in Hyrule, and check out that post for more details. Download a link for that app and the Zelda Community Amino is in the description. While you're at it, follow us on there, Wolf Den. That's Amino, link in the description, win a Switch. Yes, this was a paid advertisement. We started off the year knowing what the Switch was, but all we had to go on was this short trailer. It wasn't until the Nintendo Direct in January that we got more details. And I don't know if you remember this, but after that presentation, the general consensus was pretty negative.
I don't think any of these games are going to be bundled with the system.
They gotta give us
at
something.
launch. We still don't know a lot. We still don't know anything about hard drive space. If it
Right.
takes SD cards.
No, I'm still amped for it. Because the thing is, it's still a really interesting piece of hardware. And it's gonna have great games.
Yeah.
It's just that
This is a bad press conference.
this is a bad press conference.
People were mostly concerned at the lack of games. They showed a bunch at the presentation, but nobody cared about ARMS or Project Octopath Traveler.
Our disappointment is just that we knew this stuff already.
We didn't know. We didn't know about ARMS.
We didn't know
we didn't know about ARMS.
We learned the battery life was 3 to 6 hours, leaning more towards the 3-hour side. This also got a lot of bad press. You would need an app to communicate during online games. The price was just a little bit higher than some predictions, but not that much. And most of the games that were announced were big deals, but only in Japan. The North American audience didn't have much to go on here. The biggest positive and shock is that it was releasing March 3rd. We all knew it would release in March, but we didn't know it would be that early. Soon after this, press events started to pop up in major cities. I was fortunate enough to be able to go through a loophole where I might have pretended to be a GameStop employee. Hands-on impressions were really positive. After all, the Switch's main draw is its portability and versatility. At this point, the main concern was the launch lineup, which was seemingly lacking. The concern wasn't so much for us early adopters, us Nintendo fans. We were gonna buy the thing no matter what. The concern was for Nintendo as a company. Would this lackluster launch lineup be able to create Nintendo fans? Remember, at this time, Nintendo wasn't doing great at all. The Wii U had failed. A botched launch lineup could be catastrophic. In fact, Nintendo had stopped production of the Wii U a whole 2 months before the Switch was even out. There was also concern that there wasn't enough support from publishers. Everything we've seen so far was either from Nintendo themselves or Just Dance. In February, we did get a Nintendo Direct that was all indie games, so it was pretty clear that there was support in that regard. In February, we also got Fire Emblem Heroes, Nintendo's second smartphone game, not including Pokemon Go, because that was made by the Pokemon Company and Niantic. It's easy to forget, but Nintendo does have other products. While all of this hullabaloo was going on around the Switch, Nintendo was trying to sell games for the 3DS and the NES Classic. It was hard to find a 3DS during the previous holiday season, and the NES Classic was famously hard to find throughout its entire lifespan. Despite this, the NES Classic was somehow the third best-selling console in January, meaning it fell right behind the PS4 and the Xbox One. This leads me to believe that it wasn't as hard to find as it might have seemed. Anyway, March comes around and bam! The Switch launches with Zelda and a whole bunch of other games nobody cares about, and it was huge. Sold faster than any other Nintendo system in the Americas despite its launch lineup, and somehow Zelda sold more copies on Switch than Switch systems existed in the world. Its attach rate was 110%. Somewhere, somebody did some math wrong. Or maybe tens of thousands of people did when they accidentally bought 2 copies. Zelda quickly blew everybody away, but critics weren't sold on the Switch just yet, citing the uncomfortable Joy-Cons or the 3-hour battery life as potential problems. Hey, lay off, guys.
It's underpowered, unreliable, and lacking basic features and conveniences that all of its competitors offer. But the bottom line is that the Switch doesn't do any one of the many things it can do without some sort of significant compromise.
It was immediately hard to find a Switch in stores. In the weeks after launch, once people who had the Switch started beating Zelda or growing tired of it, they were growing concerned that there weren't going to be enough games to hold them over. There were going to be long gaps between the releases of AAA titles like Zelda, Mario Kart 8, ARMS, Splatoon 2, and then finally Mario Odyssey later in the year. How could a console survive with so few games? Easy. All these games were big deals. There we go. Nintendo was rolling things out slowly, waiting for people to finally pick up the console. Around April, Nintendo discontinues the NES Classic to the surprise of a lot of people. It was never really readily available in stores, so why would Nintendo do this? Oh, yeah, that's why. As we wait for more games and the Switch dominates sales charts, Nintendo does an interesting thing and announces a 2DS XL and a whole slew of 3DS games to be launched in 2017. Some people took this as Nintendo scaling back support for the Switch. Maybe this was just something they had in the pipeline the whole time. Regardless, nobody saw it coming. Nintendo also announces Pokken Tournament for the Switch and Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon for the 3DS. Many fans were upset that this wasn't coming to the Switch, except for AJ for some reason. All anybody ever wants is a Pokemon game on home console. Soon after, Nintendo announces the SNES Classic along with Star Fox 2, a game that has been finished for over 20 years and has never been released. This is a huge deal. In the weeks leading up to E3, this internal material for a little game called Mario plus Rabbids got leaked. The general consensus was outrage. Nobody liked this. Why does Mario have an arm cannon? Why are the Rabbids there? Why is there cursing on this? Who is this game for? E3 rolls around. It was fun. They showed more Mario Odyssey. I got to play it for about 10 minutes after waiting online for 3 hours. It was fun. We also heard about Metroid Prime 4. Don't expect that for a little bit. Perhaps the biggest announcement was the reassurance we got from the Pokemon Company that they're working on a main series Pokemon game for the Switch, seemingly in response to the disappointment that Ultra Sun and Moon is coming out for the 3DS. But we would just have to wait a little bit longer for that. Oh yeah, and Ubisoft announced Mario plus Rabbids. For some reason, everybody's all I'm so cool with it now all of a sudden. It's fine. Stupid crying grown-ass man. Anyway, Splatoon 2 launches with the absolute worst companion app that is required for voice chat, and that didn't go over too well. Look, a lot happened this year, but we're running out of time, so we gotta just skip ahead to September when the SNES Classic finally launched and the Star Fox 2 devs get that launch party that they deserve a whole 20 years after their game was canceled. Fans discovered that you can play the NES game Golf on your Switch if you perform a tribute to Satoru Iwata, which I still don't think is real, because there's still only 2 people on YouTube with half-assed proof that they've even gotten it to work.
What up, motherfuckers, Mr. Man up in this bitch, coming at you!
But I digress. During a Nintendo Direct, Bethesda announced that they'd be releasing Doom and Wolfenstein 2 for the Switch. The general consensus around this is that it's awesome. Somehow, Nintendo's market capitalization became larger than Sony's as a whole. That means Nintendo, the game company, somehow became a larger company than Sony, the gaming, technology, music, movies, and financial services company. Later, Mario Odyssey comes out and it breaks all sorts of records, tying with both Mario Galaxies for top-rated Mario game of all time on Metacritic. Sorry, Mario Maker. The Miiverse, an antiquated Wii U and 3DS online service with some of the spiciest memes, was discontinued, presumably to make way for the Switch's new online service sometime next year. The Switch became the best-selling item this Black Friday, despite the fact that it was selling at full retail price. I also think that it's safe to say that it is now much more available than it used to be, so that Nintendo-managed scarcity isn't a thing anymore. Every time Nintendo can't keep up with demand, people call them out for doing it on purpose. Now that they are trying to sell you something, people are quiet about it. And finally, Zelda takes home Game of the Year at the Game Awards against Nintendo's own Mario Odyssey and the unfinished masterpiece of a show, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Whoa, that was so much stuff. But did you see that shift there? The world went from being down on Nintendo and generally dismissive to a little skeptical to wholly embracing Nintendo's place in the gaming world. So, what's next for Nintendo? Well, for one, they're working on that Universal Studios park. We're hoping that those internet services, including the Virtual Console, will get launched sometime early next year. We got 2 major game releases from Nintendo this year, so maybe next year Pokemon or maybe Metroid. Overall, this was a huge turning point for Nintendo. They went from being the worst-selling console manufacturer to the best. They pulled themselves out of the red, got their stock prices back up, and I think things are only going to get better for them. Next year is going to be huge. 2017 might not be the best financial year for Nintendo. It might not be the year where they released the best games, but it's the year where they made the best decisions and pulled themselves out of the rubble. A lot could have gone wrong, and it didn't, and it's because they were smart, and you have to give them credit for that. But what do you guys think? What did I leave out, and what were your thoughts of Nintendo before the Switch launched? Leave it in the comments below, at me on Twitter, all of this other social media garbage. We've got live streams on Sundays, Tuesdays new videos, Wednesdays new videos, Wednesday night Wolf Den Live, that gets archived on Thursday, Saturday the backlog. And we premiere our videos live on Twitch at 10 a.m. where I stream a Mario Odyssey, me 100%ing it because I'm going for gold, baby. Don't forget to check out Amiibo apps, link in the description. Don't forget to check out our TeePublic store because it's Christmas. Get yourself something. And of course, the most important thing you can do is subscribe, share this video with a friend who was probably down on the Switch and then bought one. I have a couple of those. Thank you guys very much. Have yourselves a very good week. I don't want to get shocked. Don't shock me. All right, everything shocks me.
Let's switch over to this individual.
God, you gotta stop.
Please don't. Please don't.
Hello everyone,